In the 9th anniversary update for PlanetSide 2, there was a lot of new and shiny headline items that took the stage and stole the spotlight. Things like the new anniversary bundles, the fact that Koltir was removed from the rotation once again, the fact that the second campaign is now out for us to enjoy with new faction-specific abilities to unlock. You guys get the idea. Lots of stuff has been happening lately. But down at the bottom of the patch notes, you would find two little notes regarding a couple of weapons in the game that always needed love in my opinion. G'day there once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to be briefly revisiting the Arbalest Assault Rifle for the TR and the MGR C1 Charger Carbine for the NC. On these weapons has been well documented over the years. I mean, I particularly remember giving the Arbalest a right bashing when it first came out, and I think this is the third time we've visited the good old Charger here on the channel as well. So yeah, these two have been problems over the years when it comes to pulling their weight. But in the latest 9-year anniversary update, both of these weapons received some pretty solid buffs aiming to push them a little bit more confidently into the meta. Well, at least as close as you can get to the meta while still being strange weapons by design. For those who don't know, the MGR C1 Charger is an NC carbine that sports a unique mechanic that boosts the damage of the first 7 shots of every magazine. And the Arbalest is a TR assault rifle with a 6-round burst volley with every trigger squeeze. So yeah, pretty unique weapons on the cards here. And in the past, they have been a touch out of place in the game's balance. But let's take a look at these seemingly minuscule buffs to just see how much they have helped the weapons. And yeah, look, my NC bias says that the NC goes first here, because as we said earlier, we have visited this weapon on a couple of occasions and for good reason. It's been rebalanced quite a bit since its original introduction to the game, to the point where, I'll be honest, I can't even recognize it now based on where it was when it first came out. Now, its 7 shots of boosted damage sees it sport a similar maximum damage payload to that of the AF4 Cyclone for those boosted shots, which is great to have on a carbine in theory, especially on an accurate one like this. The issue at hand is that you would have to reload the weapon every time you wanted to take advantage of that buff, and well, throw in the fact that this weapon sported one of the longest reload times for a carbine in the game in some respects, and let's just say that, well, the gameplay loop surrounding the weapon felt cumbersome, awkward, and like you needed to put in more effort than what it was worth in the first place. But now we have a reload time that has been cut down from 2.475 seconds to 2.15 seconds, which is only 0.35 seconds slower than the infamous AF-19 Mercenary reload time, and I gotta say, the way the gun plays now feels much nicer comparatively. Last time we looked at the weapon, I made the comment that the weapon was unique but didn't quite bring enough to the table to use over other weapons regularly. It needed just too much work. But that small improvement to reload speed has gone a long way to keep the gameplay loop with this weapon just that little bit more responsive. Hell, throw in the fact that the long reload time was reduced from 3.38 seconds to 2.75 seconds is also a monumental improvement, and while you should still avoid that reload at all cost if you know what's good for you, it's far less punishing by comparison. So I would say the Charger nowadays is probably worth exploring for a little bit of fun. It still at its core promotes an incredibly guerrilla warfare style of play, so much so to the point where I kind of wonder if it would be worth embracing that side of the weapon's personality even more, like giving it a 20-round magazine and giving it an even shorter reload time. But maybe that's just a little bit too extreme. I just feel as though the boosted rounds potential of the weapon is the only reason you would use it, so why just really lean into that completely? This is going to be a weapon that you really don't want to be engaging multiple people with per magazine, and for some playstyles it will work really well. You just have to sort of keep that in mind before putting your certs into this one. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of gun. But no, nowadays the Charger is in a state where I can confidently say it's worth picking up under that proviso. I'd like to see it go even further into the hit-and-run style mechanics, but I will live with what we have now. But the Arbalest. Now, this is a weapon I was not kind to in my official review for it. The weapon review for it had me spending a lot of time roasting it, which, looking back, I kind of wished I'd taken a bit more of a constructive approach with that video, but here we are. This was a weapon that sported a burst fire mode that committed you to a horrendous recoil pattern, and it also required you to get headshots with to do any kind of meaningful damage. Combine the two, and it was just a weapon that felt like it was arguing with itself from go to woe. So, what has changed now with this update? Well, the weapon now sports a drastically reduced vertical recoil for the first 4 shots of every burst with the weapon, which is the first time we have seen this kind of mechanic in the game to my knowledge. You know, we've seen reduced recoil over time, we've seen first shot multipliers that amplify or tame recoils, but I don't think we've ever seen a flat reduced vertical recoil amount for X amount of shots per burst. So that's pretty cool to see. In addition, the stabilizing rotor attachment now reduces cone of fire bloom by 25% as opposed to reducing recoil by 30%. And if my memory serves me correctly, the type of recoil that was reduced by this attachment was the vertical recoil side of things. Both of these changes are excellent for the weapon. They create a more stable platform across the board that is going to make going for those all too critical headshots just that much more achievable. Now, the weapon is still incredibly jittery on the horizontal recoil side of things, and my original review made a very strong note of that. It does add a sense of randomness to the weapon that does kind of plague it at medium ranges, but it's clear that this is very much a burst fire rifle, more designed to tackle those close quarters to close to medium range fights. Again, more limited towards close range fights. And the changes that have been made here do help to wrangle it in a bit more to make those, consistency of headshots in those close quarters environments a bit easier to go for. The Arbalest for me, sadly, though, is not quite there though by comparison to the Charger out of the 2 updates for me just yet. The weapon is without a doubt more rewarding than it was pre-patch, and I actually have some nice things to say about the Arbalest now, which is a nice change of pace compared to what we said earlier. That said, the very design of the weapon, being a CQC orientated burst fire rifle, does make it feel like a bit of a novelty at times to use. It kind of feels like a solution looking for a problem where a problem doesn't exist, which might be a bit unfair on the weapon. I don't know, part of me just isn't quite sure why the weapon exists in its current design still, especially over something like the TAR or the Cycler for my CQC orientated gunplay instead. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure what fixes you could apply to the Arbalest to fix that issue. I really don't know what to suggest on that front. In saying that, it is a much more consistent and enjoyable weapon to use now, so for a challenge in that environment, it could still be worth the pickup, and even at medium range, if you can by some miracle tame that horizontal recoil, the condensed bloom per shot, and the lack of vertical recoil for the first 4 shots now does make that extended range a lot more achievable as well, so it's still good fun to use. But guys, with all of that said, that is going to wrap up today's video, quickly going over these 2 weapons and the small amount of changes they went under. We're not going to be doing a new weapon review for either of these guns. It just doesn't seem like, a fair use of my time, all things considered, considering that the changes that have been made here, while are impactful, are quite minimal as well to a certain extent. So we're not going to do a full review for these guns again, just figured I'd give you guys a quick update on them and how they felt post-patch, so maybe it's worth you guys picking them up now. I think I'll just give you guys some transparency on that. If you enjoyed the video, a backing of the like button goes a very long way, guys. It helps out the channel a ton. And leave a comment down below if you've had a chance to try out either of these guns and whether you think pre and post patch is impactful when it comes to difference of gameplay. Let me know how you guys feel about the guns now. As always, guys, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and following us on all of our social media links down below: TikTok, Twitter, and Discord, all linked down below, guys, for your viewing pleasure. So please go ahead and give those a follow too. It would really appreciate it. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.